percent of U.S. adults who regularly get their news from news influencers, right? Which really does include us in a way. I mean, I don't see this is a classroom, but it also is, I don't see myself as an influencer, but really I recognize that at some level it is from social media. And so if you look at you all, 18 to 29, it says 37%. But if we were just to look at the age, the people who are in this classroom, it's probably more like 40 to 45% of you get most of your news or regularly get your news from online sources and other people who are not professional news broadcasters, writers, journalists, whatever, who've not been trained to try to figure out how to get a little bit maybe closer to objectivity or whatever that might be. But you're getting it online. So here we are.
Can you say, what's the distinction in your mind between somebody getting news from social media versus getting it from professionally driven sources that have been trained to extract information?
Organic independence. We've seen the fall off of mainstream media. People are hungry for authenticity. I think that's at the heart of it. There's something unfiltered. There is the parasocial component of, as you get to know someone on a channel, you do go back to certain figures. I mean, I think Asmongold, a streamer who he's a really interesting, funny guy. He looks like he's 35. He looks like he still lives in his parents' basement. Classic video game streamer, probably the most prolific political voice on YouTube right now. And I think that's why it appeals to a younger demographic. Now, I wouldn't describe myself as objective all the time, though I strive to be.
People want authenticity. They get to know someone, so they listen to them. To me, that, and you all can answer this too, but it sounds more like entertainment than authenticity.
Yeah, so is the news. That's what corporate news has to be entertaining, or they go out of business. So that's why if it bleeds, it leads. That's why they structure things the way that they do. I think Sam just mentioned earlier about these people aren't trained in objectivity. Well, it doesn't make a difference if you're trained in objectivity. That doesn't mean they have objectivity.
No one has objectivity.
Right, but it's worse in certain areas, especially when you have massive amounts of money behind it pushing specific agendas. And this is true with Fox News as well as on the left.
Sometimes people will criticize me because they say I'm not objective, right? But when you sit here and everything is happening in real time, and I work so hard to bring different perspectives in and voices in, and it's just an immense amount of work to do that. And sometimes I will leave, I'll go home, and I'll realize, man, I could have thrown that other viewpoint in here, because I want everyone in the room to get challenged in some way. So I owe that as a teacher, right? But it's hard, man. It's hard to find that ability to push as many places as I want to push. Mm-hmm.
And no one can do that alone, right? That's why information, I think, maybe this is where we're going, needs to be a community effort, right? Because information can't just come from one place and be true. But it's only a part.
But here's an issue, right? More news influencers explicitly identify as right-leaning than left-leaning, which is kind of interesting, right? But the idea is, I'm not big on the corporate news, but the problem is people sort of, they land on some kind of ideology. Like, I think this is what I think is really important. Like, you go off to college and you sort of, who's your friend group, right? And then you sort of start to think like your friend group. Well, it already starts in high school and so on. But I land somewhere, and then I'm going to follow people who I think are smart. And the people I think are smart are going to be the people who think like me, who think the thoughts that I think. And so if I just walk down that one line, man, this is so deeply, it's like we're just dividing ourselves up into this world in which we're just hearing the same thoughts and ideas regurgitated. And
The thing I try and avoid the most is this team versus team mentality. So what is important to me most is my autonomy. I do not want to be a political player or have to be dependent on financiers. I'm not trying to accomplish political goals. I'm not even that interested in the political aspect. I'm more interested in the dynamics of the moves being made and how people are thinking and wielding logic and the techniques being implemented in these conflicts, these verbal conflicts in a way, which echoes to all aspects of your life, whether it's business, negotiations, anything. But we're seeing an interesting shift where that is starting to break down, and people are starting to say more and more, this is less about left. I know it sounds crazy in the wake of Charlie Kirk, but this is less about left and right, and it's more about something else because we have this distrust in government that's at record highs, and I think it goes back to that authenticity component. So now you have this whole kind of what's being described as the civil war on the right around this topic, where they're saying, no, we need to toe this line and police the political boundaries so we can accomplish these specific goals. And then there's people that are disagreeing with that in different ways that we could get into, but it's just something that's been interesting in only the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm. You said that you value autonomy in your thought, but all you really do in your videos, which you post nearly every day, is react to Joe Rogan podcasts, which doesn't really sound like individual thought to me. So can you comment on that?
Now and then I will cover a Joe Rogan interaction. I think the last one was Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. It might be, if we were to actually go through the numbers, it's probably more accurate, like maybe twice a month. If there were more interesting exchanges, I would definitely delve into it. I don't know what I'm going to cover tomorrow. There's interesting moves being made here. It might be on Joe Rogan, it might not be. But you what was the second part of that? You said, so I don't have full autonomy because I'm covering Joe Rogan too much?
Well, you create your own content, but you don't really give your own thought, at least from what I've seen. I mean, granted, I only watch a few minutes out of each of your videos while I've been sitting here, but I have gone through a year or so through the videos, and I've seen the titles of them. You don't necessarily give your own thought. You don't really comment on anything that's of substance that other people haven't mentioned themselves. So I don't.
That's fair.
I don't really consider you an influencer, but really a commentator.
I would like to not think of myself as an influencer either.
Call himself an influencer either.
No, but if you look at it, because I try, and when I'm watching these dynamics, I'm trying to identify the moves.
Can I just ask you to back up can you just say what you're doing? Because not everyone would know. What are you trying to do?
I'm making it up as I go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I see something interesting, I'm like, oh, this is the move here. I see a logical flaw here. This is why, at some points, this is where I think that logic is wrong. So the last video, for example, which was of this class, it was talking about the flaws of equity specifically. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Sam interjected those arguments. If you watch that video, the argument being made are the points where I disagree with equity.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, can I just further clarification? So you're saying anything you could possibly see in the online space, you would say something could stimulate a thought?
Yeah,
it
2 videos ago was a magician claiming to be able to read people's body language and deduce a PIN number. You're right, he did appear on Joe Rogan a few months ago, but that video, it doesn't matter if Joe's in it or not, but it could be a magician. It's thinking critically. Yeah, I use the tag, the art of thinking critically, right? Well, it's thinking for yourself.
Because you're commenting and doing what we mostly don't do when we're in face-to-face places, but we do in these online spaces where we comment directly on what we like and don't like about what people say and do, right? So that's unusual and rare for someone to do it just in voice. And so
it's great. No, it shouldn't be rare. I mean, I'm used to it because I am on these. So to me, that's not rare.
So we want to talk about this whole phenomenon of commenting and what does that mean and what does it produce and what should it produce? And so, do you want to just kick anything off from that?
Yeah, that for me is feedback. people say don't read the comments, but I do think it has a lot of utility, honestly. And so, yeah, I've seen that comment will pop up, and there's parts of me that's like,
wait, hang on though. But bro, you said I just scrolled through a few of your videos right now, right?
Which is awesome.
Yeah, but
This is
that's
like
what, in like 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, you already made a comment by just scrolling through some videos right now. And I'm like, yo, dog, man. You can't make a comment after that.
Why not?
But you did, which is good. That's fine. But that comment is like the comment that we leave online to some video. Like people will watch 30 seconds of one of my videos, and then they make a comment about it. I'm like, dude, that was 30 seconds.
And so, and this is getting into not only the conversation we were having, but, and this isn't just about you, so sorry.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But what
No,
is,
this guy, he can handle it. He's good.
but what is one of the things that we want to just be thinking about is what is the difference between social behavior in person and social behavior online? And what does that mean? And what is that doing to us now as humans that we have this place where we're so direct and so willing to say things that we would say don't even read people's comments, but yet in person, it's so rare that somebody says something directly to someone, or else it's a fight. Maybe that's part of the reason.
it's not. I really don't think it's a fight. Honestly, it shouldn't. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't bother me because honestly, you're going to detect that pattern where most of the time it is someone who's just, no offense, but has watched a minute and making an observation, and that's. So you're not going to take that personal, and it's fine. It's not going to. We're all adults here. This does tie into how our conversation began. So after Charlie Kirk made that video, and I shared my thoughts on there, and I don't want to blur. The student came up to me right before class and said, like, I gained a lot from those comments. Like I don't. Her mind might have changed. I don't want to put her on the spot, but she was like, "That. Thank you for." I haven't grappled in it in that way. I think that's an example of how this new technology has utility in education.
Listen, no, I get that from students who come up here, and sometimes they stumble and they say something they wish they didn't say, or sometimes they just having the experience up here. But they're always really thankful to have had the opportunity to put themselves out there, man. And that's what we're doing in this world, putting ourselves out there and being willing to hear other people's reflections on what it is that we think. And man, there is nothing more valuable or powerful than that. In like challenging ourselves and testing our thoughts out in the world. And which is your work.
But is that what it feels like most of the time? I don't spend a lot of time getting comments, making comments. So, but is that what it feels like? Does it feel like to most people that if you put content out and you get comments back, you feel like you're getting feedback, you're learning?
I think it's going to vary on comment. Now, I have not been they're on the receiving end as the student. Right, so yes, this is an audience that they're there to watch because they enjoy the content already. It might be very different for if a student comes up here and a knucklehead like me comes along and shares my thoughts on it, and then a million people say, or 500,000 or whatever it is, and then some comments are going to be more strongly worded than others. The question is am I doing something wrong by making that video, which was a real question I had to ask myself in the wake of that video, because there was concern of don't throw be careful not to throw a student under the bus. And what we're doing here is very important. And don't jeopardize that. And I'm just thinking, I have to ask myself, am I doing something that could cause this to be shut down? Because if one day, and I told Sam this, if one day someone does come along like they did with me and to shut this down, it will be over hurt feelings from comments. Probably not even anything they can point to. They probably won't even have an example. It will be the potential of what a student might see. And I think that's nonsense. I think you can handle it. It's going to make you stronger in the long run.
I just had an interesting perspective and thought. So with everything that you're saying, where you kind of you don't really care if I'm misspeaking. You just said a little bit ago you don't really care about the politics of it and you're not trying to push a specific agenda, correct? Like in the videos you've made.
It's not political for me. There are principles in the world that I think are important, but it's not about getting a politician elected or representing the Republican line.
But there are principles of
like equity, I think, is a very bad idea, and I can break down those reasons.
Yeah, but also, one of the things that you really demand is like a lot of logic. Like, your arguments have to be logical, right? That's like, it's a high test. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
So in the name of that, wouldn't you say that the titles to a lot of your videos do kind of allude to the support of one side or the other?
And this is fair.
And in the sense of like bolding liberal exposed or conservative exposes leftist view.
Yes, this is something I struggle with every time because I'm like, you're playing with this title, and when you get the combination of these silly words correct, it can mean the difference between 1 million people watch the video, 100,000, and then you switch it. People do A/B testing, and then there's the thumbnail. What do I put those 4 words on the thumbnail? Am I misrepresenting the meat and potatoes of the video? But if I don't get that, is it unethical to play with that combination so that people will engage with the meat and potatoes, or do I play it super straight, super accurate, like the way that would be more ethical, but the video doesn't perform, right? And then there's other considerations because I am doing this for a living, and there's plenty of criticism that could come with that.
Can we just?
That's a good question.
Can you say your thoughts about it?
Oh yeah, that makes complete sense, and I was taking it into consideration before you explained because, again, if this is how you make your living, it makes sense that you want people's attention to be grabbed when they're clicking on a video. So moving farther away from the general public, when you're talking to students and when you're making videos about students and what they're saying, how do you think it's beneficial for the student? It may be beneficial for you to have that bolded title and for you to have that kind of hook grabber, but people are going to see that and associate it with a college course that they're not in, and then watch parts of the video or all of the video and then lean on your title for the content of your video. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hope that they lean on what they're actually seeing in the video, and I am condensing. We're taking an hour-and-a-half class, and I'm just taking what I think is most interesting and important and condensing that in my perspective down to 10 minutes. And this is a fair criticism that I'm going to always get because there is so much left out, and people have a proclivity to say, but I had this brilliant point that you left out. And my guideline is as long as I'm not deceptively editing something and then misrepresenting what you're saying, I think I can condense and accurately represent the logic to actually make it more digestible without misrepresenting. As long as I'm staying on that, and I might get it wrong now and then, but that's what I'm striving to do. Now, you had an interesting point about if I'm in the classroom, this is the first time I've been back in the classroom in this setting in a while. So, and it's very different when I'm in the classroom, right? You're in teacher mode where it's not about what I think, my personal views. It's about these are the arguments, and we're going to navigate the perspectives and the logic. Now when I'm sitting down and I'm firing something off, and when I started doing this, it was like you never think people are going to see the people in the video. Like I did a video about Tim Pool, never thinking Tim Pool would see it. Next thing I knew, he's content nuking me for an hour and a half. It's like things have changed. But I still think it's best if you can block that out. You're going to be most authentic if you can make and speak as though they won't see it. And that way, then you can really be honest.
No offense, I've never absorbed any of your content, so I'm not going to ask you specifically about that. But you seem to touch on the realm of online discussion and the disinformation that comes with all of that, and the fact that the intertwining it with anonymity makes it seem that we can have such broad perspectives with no consequences. You touched on consequences. Do you think there truly is space within an online space to have a free and fair discussion that you can bring up these true facts and not have opinions rise above that? Because growing up, I saw so many like of these divisive videos that were like specifically to like incite me to think a certain way. But when I sat down with people who thought broadly different things across like that I was friends with, they may have had these opinions, but it wasn't like, I'm trying to prove you wrong. I'm trying to like incite this anger within you. I'm just a human being. And so I've gotten a lot more from in-person conversations than anything I've got like online. So is there space for that?
That's where I started trying to go. It is challenging. Nothing will replace what we're doing right now, but we're also on YouTube right now. There is a space to do it. You and I were to sit down and have a conversation, we could record it and put that on. And so when I used to do that a lot, and then I ran out of people because people don't like, if they come out on the wrong end of it, and I would have people sit off screen, right? So what the music teacher I used to teach with, then I lost my job and he couldn't do it anymore. The school's like, you've got to shut that down. And then I had my neighbor come over. He did one video. Then his wife told, because of the backlash from that, his wife told him no more. His brother came over and did it, no more after one video, because they didn't, even though they weren't appearing on screen. And I'm not combative. I'm not trying to. My approach to all of this is the least bad option I've been able to find. Do you have anything better to offer? It's not, this is what I think changed my mind.
Some people were like saying that you aren't really an influencer, and I wouldn't say so, because I've watched that video and you're more just commenting on the fact of what we say. And I do appreciate that compared to other people who will often misconstrued what people say, often in the news or even social media influencers. They'll often pick certain things that somebody says and misconstrued it to their own view. Like I know there was a recent video from like a well-known agency, the BBC, which had a Trump speech and completely misaligned where it was coming from and only picked certain portions to meet their political side. So I appreciate what you do. And yeah, it is hard because you're trying to make shorter videos, because these are hour-long lectures. You can't include everything unless you just be copy and pasting the whole video. So appreciate it.
And so
thank you.
Thanks, bro. And so people know, though, you've only done a few things here with these
I've probably
videos.
done of this class probably like 4.
Yeah. Has cancel culture and the rise of fake news and AI fakes made it worse to make sound, factual content believable?
Great. We wanted to hit all of those things.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed any difference, honestly. I know there's concern around AI, but no, it hasn't affected my workflow.
What's fake news to you? Like I mean, fake news could be different things, but what is it to you?
To me, when I hear that term, it is, someone brought up the good example of the recent BBC case where they're being sued for.
And the 2 top people at BBC just resigned. Yeah.
That would be fake news, in my opinion, more so than AI is like another level of fake that's in a whole other category.
But wait, just say it directly. What is fake news?
Where you have a corporation pushing or for a political outcome where they're so biased that
they willfully and willingly manipulate something.
How often do you find yourself saying, is this fake news? Some version of that. Or how you discern what is fake news?
I mean, yeah, I think as a college student, like very often you think about that, especially if you're ever using any sort of like AI source, you definitely have to think about that. And if it's like credible to what you're learning in class, if you can like use it as a resource or not. I think especially like in this day and age.
But how do you know though? Like, how do you know? Because it's so ever present. Like, how do you have any idea when you're being manipulated or not being manipulated?
In terms of like ChatGPT, I think you can't just like fully rely on it. Like I think if you're going to use it for information, you have to check if it's accurate, because a lot of the time it's not.
Yeah.
Can I also ask my question?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I had a question for Warren. I kind of wanted to question like your credibility. Like, why should someone even spend the time watching your videos? Why should someone follow you? Why should somebody want to hear your opinion on like videos that you review?
Oh my God, that is such a good question.
And I've never seen your videos personally,
Yeah.
but I'm just like learning about you for the first time now, and I'm thinking like, okay, like why should I want to hear your opinion in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you why you should. Honestly,
Yeah.
Like,
I can't answer that.
okay.
That's such
It's
a
been a
good
surprise
question.
to me. It's a good question. It's one I contemplate every day.
Like what?
I think about it for myself.
Yeah.
Why should I expect first off, any student, hang on one second, you have a response to it. But why should I expect any student to even come into my class, enroll in a class?
Well, I feel like you have credibility.
Well,
So,
why
okay,
though?
You have a lot of experience teaching this class, so I feel like that's why people sign up.
Yeah, but
No, but that's an answer.
Like that's a part of your credibility. So I'm wondering, like, why should someone spend the time watching your videos? Like, what gives you the credibility to even comment on something that doesn't involve yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to
That's
just
a really good
it is-
question.
think out loud, if you could.
Why would someone spend the time to watch Tim Pool? What gives Tim Pool credibility? Or most
I have
of these,
no idea who that is.
Okay, so and I've been thinking about that. And I realized I think it's mostly perceived value. It's something similar to when we start to pay attention to someone. They're famous because they're famous. I'm not saying but that is a stage of celebrity. It's something that occurs a lot.
Well, I feel like anyone that I would watch on the internet and spend my time watching, I have a reason for why I want to hear what they have to say. So I'm just thinking, like, I don't know you at all. I don't know your videos, but why would I want to listen to what you have to say on some random matter?
Yeah, but that's subjective, so there's no way that I can give you that answer. Like you could pick someone you do watch, and you're like, I enjoy this person. Only you can explain why you enjoy that person. All I can do is provide the logical foundation, hopefully, and if I can make the dynamics clear enough, I hope that makes it digestible and enjoyable. And if people watch it, they watch.
I just wanted to like follow up on her kind of and give a reason, because you said you don't know why people watch you, and I will say after the Charlie Kirk video, I did start watching you more, and I just wanted to give a little like representation on why people do follow your content. And I believe a lot of like growing up, I watched a lot of like Fox and CNN, lived in a both like middle ground household. And I would say over the years, I progressively started watching my parents watch less like mainstream media, which means I have to go out and watch it on my own. And I heard another kid say, like, why do you're just a commentator. You don't really like give your own opinion. And I just want to say I watch you because I believe that you fairly represent kind of like both sides. Not really like you're right leaning, but you can give the perspective of what a person's trying to give in digestible clips, which works out for the viewer. And then even if I don't agree with your statement, I'm able to weigh the two and then see which way I kind of go about it. So like, if I'm watching you and you say something conservative, but I agreed more with the person in this class that said something very liberal leaning, I'm going to kind of go with that narrative instead of following yours, but that doesn't mean I can't watch your content. Yeah. I believe giving fair news is like kind of the point of being a political commentator, because a lot of political commentators nowadays are scared to hurt their like funders, like major political party representatives. So that's why your news is a healthy balance and allows us to find like little niche people that give their perspective on modern day media.
Yeah. And thanks for that. Yeah, that's very cool.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You know, bro, I don't find you to be right-leaning so much as just really good at challenging the left.
That's what I was going to comment, because I think about that a lot. And so equity, for example, I don't think of myself as conservative or liberal. Now I know that's probably going to bother some people. Like, well, yeah, you are, but like my position on equity happens to, I guess you could call that represents the conservative view on equity. I think equity is a very bad idea. Toxic masculinity. There's different topics we can go down, and like, oh, well, that followed, but that landscape will shift. I believe.
I just had one small observation and kind of question for you. So she gave you a really good opportunity, not to pitch per se, but to elaborate on why we should listen to you. So So we're currently in a room of, like, I would assume over, give or take, 500 people. So the first answer that you provided being, oh, I don't know how to answer that, or I can't answer that, wouldn't that solidify someone's position to not watch you? Because if I'm listening to someone, especially when they post mainly political content, I would like to hear some defense or some like reasoning for why I should continue to listen to their stances. But if they were to instantly say, oh, I can't answer that question, I think you should defend the living that you're making, or at least the content you're posting.
So you think I should? But if I were here to try and sell you to watch my content, then there would be some prerogative for me to do that. But I'm not here to do that.
No, completely.
Yeah. I actually appreciated your answer, by the way. And Lori Lynn, if someone, Dr. Mulvey, if someone asked me that question, what would be my answer? Why should we watch your class? What would I say?
It would be something similar.
The same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it would hurt the content if I were to think that way.
Yeah.
I want to genuinely say talk about what I'm interested in and why, and break it down how I see it, and not worry about how it lands. That should be what I'm striving for. So if I'm in here telling you this is why you should be, I would be doing the opposite of that.
Yeah.